Omega.
Shadow.
Rouge.
Team Dark is simply unbeatable.
Hey guys, Mark here from Ace Card Gaming. Now, we've covered the character of Shadow the Hedgehog, one of my favourite characters in the series, in quite a lot of detail on the channel already. And while we did briefly touch on this part of his history in his own dedicated analysis video, I don't think leaving it at that would do it justice. That's right, today's video is 3 characters for the price of 1, as we'll be covering Team Forgotten. I mean Team Dark. Team Dark is truly special, as it represents a really important period of time in the series for all 3 of its members. Outside of Sonic Adventure 2, it was only in games where Shadow worked alongside his fellow Team Darkians that he actually experienced any real growth or progression, with Sega's disbanding of the team marking the point in the series where his character was completely decimated. Rouge may very well owe her continued appearances in the series during the 2000s to her membership of Team Dark, as this meant as part of a package deal, she was nearly assured a role so long as Shadow had one, evident by the fact that since Sonic Team began pretending Team Dark never existed, she has done precisely only getting a slightly extended narrative-based role when a nod to Team Dark was given in Forces. And Omega made his introduction into the series through his induction into Team Dark at the beginning of Sonic Heroes, pretty much owing his existence to the group, and doing even less than precisely all outside of his work with Shadow and Rouge ever since. These 3 characters were all great personalities in their own right, and throwing this ragtag bunch of misfits together somehow created a team with perhaps the strongest bond in the series, providing all 3 with a chance to shine via the unquestionable chemistry they have together. In this video, we're going to analyse the history of Team Dark and attempt to define just what made this group of outsiders so special, discuss how disbanding the team has only been detrimental to its members, and make a case for why Team Dark should return in a future game. But just before we get started, if you enjoy videos analysing the different games and characters in the Sonic series, you should consider hitting that subscribe button. I create lots of deep dive analysis videos just like this one, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified when I release more. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Back before the events of Sonic Heroes that saw the formation of Team Dark, Shadow and Rouge already had history. Both made their debut in the same game, and were even part of the same team, working alongside Eggman to achieve their various goals. But the word team applies very loosely to the arrangement we see between Shadow and Rouge in Sonic Adventure 2, as the two only really work together out of necessity, and enter into an agreement purely as a means to an end. Neither cares about the other on a personal level, and secretly only have their own agenda in mind. Shadow wants to destroy the world to avenge the death of his closest friend, just as he believes she wanted, and Rouge only joins the team as a gun spy, to gather intel on Eggman and the Ultimate Life Form, while also carrying out her passion for treasure hunting on the side. The two hardly even interact with each other outside of a few specific events, with Shadow calling Rouge out as a spy later in the game, and Rouge lashing out at Shadow, asking him if he or his memories are even real. You really could be forgiving for wondering just how these two could ever end up forming a genuine team. But that's not the full picture of their experiences in Sonic Adventure 2, because as well as the smaller hints in the game that there are more to these characters than their selfish single-minded goals, like Shadow saving Rouge during the bombing of Prison Island, or Rouge returning the Master Emerald pieces to Knuckles, there was also the last episode of the game that changed everything. With certain annihilation now facing the world due to Gerald Robotnik's doomsday plan, Rouge and everyone else pull together in a race to stop it. Everyone, that is, except Shadow. He believes he has fulfilled his promise to his closest friend, honouring her dying wish. But once his true memories are unlocked thanks to Amy, Shadow springs into action to help the others, selflessly jumping in front of the Bio-Lizard while Sonic and Knuckles deal with neutralising the Chaos Emeralds, before ultimately sacrificing himself to save the planet. Shadow managed throwing off the shackles of grief once he learned the truth about his promise to Maria, giving his own life to save the planet she loved so much. Rouge also changed in a big way towards the end of the game. When Knuckles is caring towards her after their fight outside the Ark, she allows her guard to be let down slightly, returning the emerald pieces to him under the guise that they have echidna stink on them. But there's no mistaking the look she gives him when his back is turned. This is someone who is not used to anyone genuinely caring about her. The life of a government agent and part-time treasure hunter must be a killer for your social life. And while she doesn't quite know how to handle her feelings properly, she still definitely appreciates it. But seeing Shadow selflessly take on the Bio-Lizard before giving his own life to save everyone else really opens her eyes to how pure of heart Shadow was. And when Sonic returns alone to the Ark's main deck, it's Rouge who asks where Shadow is. It's Rouge who Sonic gives Shadow's inhibitor ring to, and it's Rouge who frets about the purpose of Shadow's creation. But Sonic's comforting words to her couldn't be more true, and I think this leaves us on a good footing for making sense of what comes next. The events around the formation of Team Dark start with Rouge breaking into one of Eggman's bases, hoping to find his secret treasure. However, what she finds is something else entirely. She discovers what appears to be Shadow, ultimate life form and savior of the planet, in suspended animation inside a capsule of liquid. In her haste to release him, she doesn't notice the dormant robot activating nearby. It proceeds to unleash a barrage of bullets at Shadow, believing him to be an Eggman robot. But Rouge quickly intervenes and uses her degree in fast-talking to play peacemaker, establishing that Omega wants revenge on Eggman for sealing him away in this room. As Shadow, well, he can't remember anything about his past. She pretty much forms Team Dark on the spot, forcing the hands of Shadow and Omega together, and while Shadow tries to feign outward reluctance, he doesn't exactly pull his hand away. Big softy. As with all good teams, Team Dark is equally beneficial to all three of its members. Shadow gains a sense of belonging, and doesn't have to suffer the endless questions around his past, or ponder the purpose of his existence all by himself. And while he may play the tough lone wolf card every chance he gets, that's all an external show for those around him. The reason he didn't pull his hand away from Omega's, or refuse to help Rouge in her stupid treasure hunt, is because he doesn't want to be alone. He now has two people who grow to care about him, and will help him find the answers he needs. It could be argued that Rouge formed Team Dark for purely selfish reasons. She needed some extra muscle to pull off her heist on Eggman, and abused Shadow's amnesia and Omega's robotic focus to get what she wants. Simple as that. But I'd argue that she recruited Shadow primarily so as to keep him close. She was devastated by his death at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, and has now found what she believes to be him locked away in one of Eggman's labs. I believe she genuinely wants to help him, while also keeping an eye on him to make sure he's okay. And I think this becomes more obvious as the game goes on, but we'll get onto that later. Rouge is effectively the team's PR representative. She's socially confident and is never afraid to use her barbed tongue to lay the verbal smackdown on their enemies. And she now has two very capable fighters to protect her and help with her heist. Omega had no purpose before joining the group. His fate was to lie dormant and rot away in storage, as the last of his kind in the now discontinued E-series. Eggman discovered a serious flaw in this line of robots back in Sonic Adventure 1, with Gamma becoming self-aware and acting against him after gaining a sense of humanity. My guess is Eggman discovered the same flaw in Omega, opting to lock him away, discontinuing the E-series completely. There are lots of aspects of Omega's personality that back this up, and we'll get onto those in a little bit. Omega wants to seek out Eggman to take revenge on him for locking him away and wasting his potential. And he now has two teammates who, let's just say, live life in the grey areas, and have no problem indulging these violent urges as long as it's towards those who deserve it. The team set out in their pursuit of Eggman, butting heads with the other teams along the way. When they finally corner Eggman in the canyon near Bullet Station, Shadow instructs the group to capture him first, and then Omega can have his revenge, which Omega is happy to agree to. While this interaction always seemed fairly straightforward, I always really liked it, because it shows that while getting answers is Shadow's number one priority, somewhere deep down he still understands the need for revenge, having spent the entire previous game seeking the same thing. However, after defeating Eggman, the team discover he was a fake, and even more troubling is the discovery of destroyed copies of Shadow in the debris of Eggman's airship. Rouge has really grown to care for Shadow after he sacrificed himself to save the world, and as she watches him staring at his broken copy, she begins to worry about his mental state, calling his name to snap him out of it. The sound of Rouge's voice abruptly pulls Shadow back from the void. He quickly puts back up his walls of calm, cool and collectedness, and the team leave to continue their search for Eggman. As the team grow ever closer to their target as they board the Egg Fleet, Shadow begins to make peace with himself. Whether he is the real Shadow or not, he is taking on the moniker either way, and I'd argue it's the acceptance he feels from Rouge and Omega as a member of Team Dark that gave him the confidence he needed to achieve this growth. If they are willing to accept him as the real Shadow, then that's all he needs. But in the end, there are no real answers for Shadow. They defeat Eggman for a final time on his Egg Fleet, but once again it was only a fake. Rouge might actually be just as afraid of finding out the truth about Shadow as Shadow is himself, and is visibly distressed when she thinks she's discovered the answer at the end of their story in the lab full of Shadow copies. But Omega is far more conscious of the emotions of organic beings than a so-called robot has any right to be. Seeing that Rouge is upset by the army of clones, he shows empathy with these comforting words.
You know about cloning. The original must exist somewhere.
pretty much saying he believes their Shadow is the real one, and Rouge should too, perhaps completely surpassing the human side of Gamma in Sonic Adventure 1, without any teaching or prompting from someone like Amy. Which, as I said before, is likely why Robotnik discontinued the E-Series, and Omega is the last of his line. A lot of people wonder why Rouge didn't just tell Shadow about his past, and I used to ask this question a lot too. But the more I think about it, there are a good few reasons she may have chosen to say nothing. She may have been testing Shadow, as she wasn't 100% sure if he was real or not, and wanted to let him naturally discover or remember his own past. If he wanted to go down the selfish route, had she told Shadow everything in the beginning, he'd have no reason to help her. But in reality, I think the most likely reason is that she was afraid. She cares about Shadow a lot, and she may not have been able to handle finding out that he's really gone, as well as the fear of what discovering the truth might do to this Shadow. Whether her decision was right or wrong, I've come to understand why she didn't say anything. Considering he's lost his memory and is supposedly a blank slate in this game, Shadow is a lot more comfortable speaking to Rouge and Omega than he was during most of his dealings with other people in Sonic Adventure 2. Shadow was playing the long con in that game, with any social interactions being purely a means to an end. And even when he discovered the truth and teamed up with the others, it was from behind his wall of cool calm and collectedness, choosing to speak with his actions rather than his words. In Heroes, he comes out of his shell a bit more, and has some cocky and competitive moments where he banters a bit with Rouge and Omega. But most importantly, he seems much more at ease around them, and his social interactions with them are very natural. He trusts them enough to have them around while he confronts the thing that makes him most vulnerable, his past. And for Shadow, I think that says a lot. Team Dark consists of 3 characters who live life in the grey area. All 3 have characteristics that could be perceived as bad, but when push comes to shove, they always do the right thing. They had nothing to really gain by sticking around to help defeat Metal Sonic, but they still volunteered to put themselves in harm's way to buy Sonic the time he needed to go super. And I believe this is the reason they're so popular. Their flawed personalities and ability to live in the grey, while ultimately doing the right thing, is much more relatable to most people. And as such, Team Dark is consistently the most popular team in the series, an achievement they well and truly deserve. For all the problems that 06 had, it handled the natural progression of Team Dark extremely well, with the trio now operating in an official capacity as agents of Gun. And while the group are no longer on a high-stakes personal mission, and now answer to the leadership of their organization, the bonds they formed as Team Dark are still clear for all to see. They all care for one another, and have each other's backs at all times. And despite the bleak future for the team that Mephiles predicts, they are strong enough to stick together and fight for each other. When Omega confesses that it will be him who apprehends Shadow when humanity turns on him, he does so with a tremendous amount of regret, but he has too much respect for Shadow to hide it from him. Rouge immediately jumps to Shadow's defense, saying how can humanity turn on him when Shadow has protected the world every single time it needed him, going on to say that no matter what happens, she will stick by Shadow's side. This was a huge moment for Rouge in my eyes, as she was always typically labelled as the selfish one, the one who only ever looked out for herself. And this proves that evaluation is completely false. To my eyes, Team Dark share a bond that easily rivals that of even Team Sonic. Team Dark can often convey more emotion with a knowing look or nod of the head than Team Sonic can with their sometimes cliché notions of teamwork. And to me, that signifies a seriously strong connection. Shadow is visibly hurt that Omega will be the one to apprehend him when humanity turns on him, but with one look you can tell he understands and doesn't hold it against Omega. He is also visibly torn when he has to leave a deactivated Omega behind on their trip to the future, dejectedly agreeing with Rouge that they can do nothing to help him. This portrayal of the team is awesome, and really shows how strong a connection they now have with each other. And this is coming from a guy whose favourite character is classic and adventure era Sonic, so there's not even any bias here. The trio go on to face Mephiles, with Shadow stating that if the world chooses to become his enemy, he will fight like he always has, before removing his inhibitor rings like a badass and dishing out a Team Dark beatdown to the army of mouthless goons. There's no logical reason why these 3 should work so well together, but they do, and I think it's because they each give each other what they crave, a sense of belonging and acceptance. They are a bunch of outliers, outcasts who had nobody and whose very existence is a fight. They're the dictionary definition of a ragtag bunch of misfits, who complement each other and excel where the other is weak, somehow developing a chemistry together and creating a really strong friendship. The group was created entirely by coincidence, and I think the fact that everything still clicked together perfectly is amazing. The social dynamic of this group is always entertaining to watch, And should Team Dark ever be formally re-established, I think this would open up a lot of opportunities for great dialogue and comedic moments, if done right. And if we don't get a game, I'd gladly settle for a cop show with these three as gun agents. I'd watch the shit out of that. Team Dark's existence is pretty much defined to me as a diamond in the rough, as while Heroes and 06, the games they were most prominent in, were far from perfect, Team Dark was the one thing they both did right. But after 06, they just faded away into obscurity, like so many other promising things in the series. And yeah, they've started making small appearances again, like in Team Sonic Racing and Forces, but personally, I feel that barely constitutes lip service, and was just a thinly veiled attempt at pandering. But should it turn out to be a sign of things to come, then I'm fine with that. Team Dark deserves some serious exposure in a future game, and since it defined the progression of characters like Rouge and Shadow after their respective debuts, the crude and abrupt removal of this team, backed up by the lack of even a basic plan for any of its members, was completely shambolic, and it's no wonder that the Team Dark trio have been all over the place ever since. Of all the teams that have ever appeared in the Sonic series, the team whose strongest point you least expect to be friendship is Team Dark. Yet this is 100% the case, and this resonated with so many people over the years. Quick-talking, quip-making, catchphrase slinging teams are all well and good, but some people like a team who they feel represents them a little more. A team that forgoes the catchphrases and just gets stuff done. Shadow, Rouge and Omega need Team Dark, and in my opinion, the audience do too. But I think I've probably rambled on enough. What about you guys? Does Team Dark have any special meaning to you, and would you get behind #ReviveTeamDark? Or do you think what's done is done, and maybe want to see these characters move on to something else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, if you enjoyed the video and found the content interesting, please consider subscribing. I make lots of deep dive analysis videos just like this one on Sonic characters and the series lore. I also do reviews and retrospectives on Sonic games, and from time to time other games too. So if any of this sounds interesting to you and you'd like to show your support, hit that subscribe button. Your subs really help the channel, and each and every one of them is hugely appreciated by me. But for now, a big thank you for watching, and as always guys, take care.